she called me up and she said, after following your diet, my blood pressure is reversed, which I had from last 13 years.
Thriving Instagram community of more than 2 lakh fitness enthusiasts.
It was definitely something that changed my life. I was obese myself. Unless and until you work on your nutrition, your PCOD is not going anywhere.
What made you choose Manav Rachna?
I am what I am today because I studied here. Whatever hormones are present, they are present in the milk fats. You have to make sure that you're obtaining those calories from the right sources. The water does not has an expiry date. It's the plastic bottle that has an expiry date.
See a lot of reels around paneer being fake. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Manav Rachna podcast, where we bring you the experts' POV of leading academicians and industry titans across sectors. This is Vakanksha Srivastava, your host for this episode. So our today's guest is someone who is redefining what healthy living looks like. Renowned clinical nutritionist, Ms. Simran Bansal. Hi Simran, it is our absolute honor to have you with us today.
The pleasure is all mine. It is a lot of mixed emotions coming back to your own university, where we learned everything from I am what I am today because I studied here, and it really is so much of mixed emotions and pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It is our honor. First of all, I need to introduce you. So, Simran, a dietitian, a certified fitness professional, and proud alumna of Manav Rachna, is the founder of Pretty Foods, which is the wellness initiative dedicated to helping people build sustainable, home-based dietary habits without compromising on taste or lifestyle. With over 7,000 clients and a thriving Instagram community of more than 2 lakh fitness enthusiasts, Simran is the leading voice helping people tackle chronic health conditions like PCOS, thyroid, diabetes, and many more. Her practical, no-fuss approach has been featured in global media, and she was also recently invited to Josh Talks to share her journey. Today, we are going to hear her story and get her expert's take on what really works when it comes to nutrition. So first things first, what inspired you to get into this field?
So nutrition has been a part of my education since class 11, where we studied a subject called home science, and food and nutrition was a small subject in that. And to my challenge, I really loved that subject, and it was the most difficult subject in home science because it was a lot of science, and I belonged to humanities background. So understanding science after some time of not being in a science related field was a little challenging. But it was something that from the very first moment I knew that this is what I want to do. Because I was also suffering from a disease at that time. I was suffering from PCOD. And my PCOD journey has not been easy. I have been sharing my journey through my platform, through Josh Talks, everywhere, because I want to motivate people and make them understand why nutrition is the main key to your well-being. Because nutrition actually changed my life. So when I was studying food and nutrition, it was very basic in class 11th and 12th, and I was suffering from PCOD at that time. I stopped my cycles in class somewhere around class 10th boards, and then I didn't get my periods till class 12th boards for 2 long years. And these 2 years have been on and off hospitals, doctors. So I've been to like 10 gynecologists in my city, Faridabad. And after being to these gynecologists, trying different medications, trying Ayurvedic medications, so we went to Kerala and we procured some Ayurvedic herbs and medicines from Kerala to recover my PCOD. And I also tried homeopathic treatment. So after visiting multiple doctors, there was only one doctor I would definitely like to take her name. Her name is Dr. Neeta Dabai. And she was the only one, while looking at my reports, she said, no matter how many medicines you eat, unless and until you work on your lifestyle, unless and until you work on your nutrition, your PCOD is not going anywhere. कितनी मर्जी दवाई खा लो. Like this is what she, and it hit me hard because this was something different I was hearing from all the other 9 gynaes that I consulted and all the other, Ayurvedic specialists or homeopathic doctors I consulted. So this was something different for me to hear. And then she recommended a dietitian. I still remember. I think the dietitian was also from Manav Rachna. And she recommended a dietitian and said, because I was studying food and nutrition, I started looking for, started researching online and how to recover from it. And I realized what is the power of nutrition at that time. And that, fixed me. Yes, this is what I want to do. And then I got admitted in Lady Irwin College, Delhi University, where I did my graduation from. And then I did my post-graduation from Manav Rachna with a specialization in clinical nutrition. Also, clinical nutrition, I really wanted to get into it. I was like quite adamant that I want to get into clinical nutrition because I've seen a lot of diseases in my family. So my grandfather had been suffering from diabetes all his life. I see my father going through diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypothyroidism. So any disease, any hormonal imbalance, you name it, it's in my family. So I wanted to treat them all. And I am like the strictest daughter to my dad now. And he says like, I've invested in your education and I am just, bearing the fruit of it because you are after my life and you don't let me eat the sweets I want to. So it's like definitely clinical nutrition was my first choice because I wanted to understand the diseases and how to treat them and cure them, because I felt that way I would be able to help or give to the community as much as I can. That's how my journey started.
Okay, when you have seen the impact of something in your own life, in the lives of your close ones, I think that there's no better motivation than that.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So, see, building an expertise in a profession is a different thing, and building a business from scratch is another. These are two very different things in my understanding.
Yeah.
So, can you walk us through your initial days when you were building Pretty Foods? What were the challenges that you faced then?
Okay, so the person who motivated me to start my own thing is my now husband. And he really, he was an entrepreneur and he wanted me to be an entrepreneur, not because, I was not doing fine in what I was doing, but because I wasn't happy doing it. So he wanted to see me happy and he wanted me to become an entrepreneur. And he said, just take a leave for a week. And if you don't earn what you earn in a month, in a week, you can go back to your job. And I was like, okay. So I took a leave from the hospital where I was working. And I went to his office at like 10 a.m. in the morning. And he made my business account and he told me this. He gave me work. Like this you have to do, and I did all that, and then he gave me chutti at 10 p.m. So 12 hours first day I worked, but after going home I didn't sleep. So for the first week of setting up my business, I didn't sleep. It was 24 hours work in the first week because everything was to be set up and you had to make a lot of posts, different ideas. I instantly came up with the name Pretty Foods because I was obese myself. I was 80 kgs and I lost 20 kgs. What I missed most during my diets and my journey was eating good food because I love food, right? That's why I love good food. And why I wanted to name my organization as Pretty Foods is, the motto is, you can lose weight eating pretty foods.
Oh, wow.
So you don't have to give up on you just have to convert into a healthier version, which I still do to the day. So making or innovating new recipes was the main thing that I did.
And when the food looks pretty, you obviously want to eat more of it.
Yeah. So even if you garnish a salad beautifully, it will be tempting and you will eat it, right? So that's called nutrition psychology, we studied. So we have to be very much creative, at the same time very much scientific.
Yeah.
So for starting my business, 1 week I didn't sleep. I was working on all these strategies, how to be creative, how to make my Instagram look beautiful, and how to make sure that whatever I am actually wanting to achieve. So I remember it was like finding out before after images and reviews of clients that I had in past in hospital. So I worked there, collected some reviews, and started with one transformation journey that was mine. And then I also had the student who wanted to be an army officer, and he had like a very limited time to achieve a goal. So he was my first client.
Okay.
And I didn't charge anything for that. And he was my first client. I made him lose 12 kgs in a month. That was crash. And definitely I explained it to him that it's crash, but he wanted to serve his nation, which is above all, right? So I helped him lose 12 kgs. And then after he got admitted, he called me that I got my admission in army. Thank you so much. And now I want to get healthy. Now I have time, so I do it sustainably. So I helped him with that also.
Nice.
So this journey was beautiful. I know it was a lot of hard work, but the reward that I was getting was something amazing.
When you lose sleep over something,
Yeah,
that is what passion looks like.
yeah,
And it seems like it.
yeah, definitely.
From your story.
Definitely.
Yeah. So when you started with it, you maybe had a conception, or maybe you identified a gap, and then you entered this industry with that. So did that work all throughout, or has your philosophy around food and wellness evolved over the years?
Definitely, it has evolved. Like earlier, I believed, yes, this is a set pattern and everybody should eat like this pattern. Because of what experience I had. So I started my business during COVID, and during COVID lockdown, everybody was at home, right? So whatever I recommended them, whatever set pattern I gave them, they did cook, they eat that only, and they lost amazing amount of weight during COVID because they were free and they had time for themselves to look after their health.
Right.
So, but as we started getting back to normal, my philosophy completely changed. I recently was invited to NDTV and they wanted me to talk about body types. So what I said that there could not be a fixed pattern related to anything because every individual has an individual routine and they require their diet as per that. So no one body type, you cannot categorize people in one body type. You cannot categorize people in one blood group. Like suppose you are O positive, I am O positive, but your routine would be absolutely different from me. So of course we both cannot manage to follow the same diet, right? So every diet has to be customized and it has to be as per the individual creation.
So that is the person.
So that's how I evolved, like from one size fits all to, every person has their own challenges and they need their own personalized diet plan and dietary guidelines.
Right. So other than the army professional that you said benefited from your services, was that the point when you realized that, yes, this is what I was meant to do? Or is there any other point in life or milestone that motivated you like that?
So while I did the army officer project, it was like my team was motivating me at Sarvodaya Hospital because I attended that client through Sarvodaya Hospital. And my husband said that yes, you can do it. But I would say the milestone for me where I felt like what I am doing actually matters was a different case altogether, and it came after 1 year of starting my business. Okay. So till 1 year I was quite busy to set up everything, and I didn't have time to sit and think if what I am doing is making any change in the society or not. I did not, for the first year, I did not had to be very honest, I did not had any time to sit and think because I had to prove a lot of people, a lot of things. I had to, because I was building, right? So after a year when I built and I saved some money and I invested some money in everything, after that, I had a case and she was with me from starting. So my fee started from 500 a month. So the lady who took my diet plan, her name is Harpreet, and she, I think, joined me in 2nd or 3rd month when I started my business. After a year, she called me up and she said, I am so happy to tell you that I've been following your diet for almost a year now. And after following your diet, I have stopped taking my blood pressure medicines. I am coming back from the doctor and he has stopped my blood pressure medications altogether because my blood pressure is reversed, which I had from last 13 years. And which she had from last 10 years, and she lost around 13 kgs of weight in that 1 year. So now here my strategy evolved. Okay, she lost just 13 kgs in a year because she was in her menopause and everything, but she reversed her hypertension. So what is a bigger achievement? I made someone stop relying on medicine for their blood pressure.
Yeah.
So that was like, okay, what I am doing is changing people's life. So that case definitely hit me hard, and I still remember it. And then she kept on coming back to me. So she shifted to Canada for a while, and there her lifestyle changed, and she talked to me, okay, my lifestyle has now changed. Now I want to see what you can do for me. So we planned a different routine altogether. Until now, her blood pressure medication has not started yet back again.
That is a remarkable transformation,
Yeah.
if I may say. And something, if you can heal somewhat naturally, what's better thing to do, right?
Yeah, with
Because
food.
nobody wants to rely on medicine. Definitely.
With food.
Okay, now let's rewind a bit and talk about your time at Manavrishna.
Yeah.
So starting with, what made you choose Manavrishna back then?
So it's nearby my home. Definitely that was a plus point. And I chose Manavrishna because I felt after what I learned in a government college, I need to take an experience of a private college, and I believe it was more disciplined, and it helped me become more disciplined towards my studies, which I was not during my government college years. So definitely I felt that yes, this is an institution which is going to make me more disciplined, and when you are disciplined, that's the time when you can change yourself a little bit, because I wasn't a very disciplined kid, right? So that was one of the reasons. And the course curriculum attracted me definitely, because we had an option of choosing what field we want to go in the last year. Usually what happens in universities is they allot you the field, but here we had an option of choosing it. So which also, that was the first 3 points that yes, okay, when I want to choose clinical nutrition in my final year, I will be able to do that. So these were the 3 main topics, because I was clear in my head that I want to do clinical nutrition only.
Okay.
So these were the 3+ points which made me, go for Manavrishna.
And as you mentioned before, there was a nutritionist from Manavrishna only who you consulted for your...
I didn't consult her actually, but she said that like even doctors knew, like
maybe that was a recall value that may help also.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
And was there anything specific that you enjoyed the most during your time here?
I enjoyed participating in lots and lots of projects. The best thing that I like about here is it's not just being bookish knowledge, it's also about exploring. So there was a project where Dr. Ma'am I did, and it was called FSSAI Iron Deficiency Anemia Project, in which we students of Manavrishna went to around 30 different schools in Faridabad and gave lecture on iron deficiency anemia, and she took us to PepsiCo office in Gurgaon, which was an experience in itself, because seeing how nutritionists work in a corporate setting, that was an amazing experience. And then we came back and we did the project. I personally went to 10 schools. So I went to both my schools. I went to Shiv Nadar, which is a very reputed school, and I went to St. Anthony's, which was my school back then.
Okay.
So my teachers were like appreciating me there. So it was a very good project when you're talking in front of hundreds and hundreds of people, even though they were kids. But yes, you're talking in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. The amount of confidence
That you get.
that gives you, no book can give you that confidence.
Definitely.
Okay, so that was one project that was, very this thing. Then Dakshinder ma'am bought us a project of going to Japan, to Tsukuba University. It was a program where we got scholarship. So there were 4 students who got scholarship. I was the 4th one, and We went to Japan. We did a 15-day training course of physical fitness and training, and there I realized how our bone mineral densities are. We did some testing, what different tests we can do, and how nutrition and psychology is interlinked, how your muscle growth happens. And it was like a life-changing experience for me. That was the first trip I went all alone international, without parents, right? So I think that was the first trip anywhere I went without my family. Yeah. So I've never been to any school trips also where you had to stay overnight. And I went straight away to Japan for like 15 days.
That must have been an amazing experience.
Amazing experience. Yeah, we booked our hotels and we stayed in those capsule hotels, and we got the scholarship money to spend, and it was definitely something that changed my life, because you get to learn a lot of new things. Like I got to learn that Japanese people are so slim because they drink a lot of green tea. And I started using, instead of having cold drinks or anything, I used to get my green tea, squeeze some lemon and chill it in the refrigerator and drink it throughout the day when I was on my weight loss journey. That really helped me lose weight, and they walk a lot. So there are a few things that I learned from there. So that was a highlight of my
That's nice.
qualification.
So hands-on, interdisciplinary learning,
Yeah.
and of course a lot of fun.
Lot of fun and lot of exposure. When you get the exposure of talking in front of people, and there we had, even in Japan, so it was not like we are presenting ourselves in India only. We were presenting ourselves internationally. So I feel the confidence of speaking like this, because I was a very unconfident child. I know that I was very introvert. I think Manav Rachna helped me get more extrovert.
That's amazing.
That's changed my personality.
Yeah, and public speaking does take a lot of
Definitely.
It is not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and so in every college we have our favorite teacher or a mentor that who contributes the most in shaping who we are. Any specific mentor you want?
I think all the teachers have been great mentors for me. I have a great experience with each one of them. Like Beenu ma'am gave me the opportunity of working with FSSCI, which is in itself, for a college student, a great opportunity. And Ankita ma'am has helped me with my projects. She's been the sweetest person to come up to for any kind of help. Then Mehak ma'am has been great teaching us clinical nutrition. I think my basics are so clear in clinical nutrition because it was Mehak ma'am teaching us. And Dr. Renuka ma'am, so she was my professor in Lady Irwin, and when I came here for masters, she was my professor here in nutrition biochemistry. So she was fantabulous, I would say, in her teaching skills. Her teaching skills were like beyond my imagination. Like, she would make nutrition biochemistry so easy, and to my surprise, I scored 80% in nutrition. So nutrition biochemistry is the most difficult subject of nutrition, I believe. And I scored 80% in that because I feel Dr. Renuka ma'am helped make that subject so fluent and so easy. Then I had a great experience with Dr. Sarita ma'am in my final year. She was my research mentor, and she really helped me with bring up a topic that today I still use in my professional expertise, which was about milk. So researching about heavy metals and nutrients in milk. So that was my research topic I did, and it was, I collected milk samples, got it tested. She helped me she used to make me sit in her cabin whole day and help me write my thesis and research. So she was a great, very helping hand in my qualification, and I still use it to my practice, those, milk, this thing.
That's amazing. So, as you said, that the milk project that you did helps you even today.
Yeah.
How does it come up in your client interactions or clinical practice?
Definitely. So, what happened was I collected 15 samples of milk from Faridabad, which were local samples. It was not any brand, it was like local samples, because many people prefer having that local Gwala milk, right? So I collected 15 samples and I took it for testing in IIT Delhi for heavy metal in milk.
Okay.
And milk is something even a child consumes, right? And as I told you that I was suffering from PCOD, so every doctor I went to, the first thing that they used to say is quit milk. And I am a person who loves milk. So I was like quite intrigued why everybody is asking me to quit milk, why milk is the sole culprit. And so I did my research, and after my research, the first step of any research is you have to study a lot of present research papers.
Right.
So I studied around 100 research papers. So when I first met Dr. Sarita ma'am, so she was like, okay, by tomorrow find me 100 research papers on milk that you are going to read. So I found out 100 research papers and we started reading it. So for the first 3 months, all we did was reading all the research papers. So while I was reading the research papers, I got to know that why in PCOD they say that you need to quit milk is because most of the cattle get hormonal injections to produce or meet up the milk demand. Now, because of those hormonal injections, some accumulation happens in milk, and that is why a female, when consumes milk, her hormonal profile gets disturbed, and that's how they get PCOD. And that's why every doctor, first thing they'll meet if you have PCOD, and they'll say stop drinking milk.
Okay.
So when I was studying the research paper, I found out two things why this is such a misinformation. First is whenever the cattle is given any injection or any heavy metals are present in the milk.
What kind of heavy metal ions do we usually detect?
We tested lead, cadmium, arsenic. We found arsenic in one of the samples. We found lead and cadmium in almost all the samples, but they were all under permissible limits. I also studied about bioaccumulation of these heavy metals.
Right.
Bioaccumulation is something like the amount of heavy metal that has been going inside your cells.
The ppm?
Yeah, which takes about around a week to get out of your body.
Okay.
But milk is something that you consume on daily basis.
Yes.
So every day it's entering. So technically it's never going out of your body, right?
And how does that, like in women, if you specifically say, what kind of direct impact or effect do you see in women's body if one is consuming milk, contaminated milk, or
So it's not just a woman body that's being affected by the heavy metals. We are seeing an increased number of cancer and all these diseases. It's because we have heavy metals in our foods, and that's because of the pollution. So we studied, it was a whole chain from industrial pollution, where when it rains, it goes to soil and it becomes soil pollution. And from soil, it goes to the crops, fodder, which is being fed to the animals, and that's how animals get the heavy metals.
So it's a whole cycle.
Yeah, so it's a whole cycle and it was one research paper in which we studied. But to my surprise, when I studied more and more research papers, I found out that mammary glands, even in cattle, have filters. So what those filters do is they filter out certain amount of heavy metals, and they filter out what all hormonal injections have been given to them. Certain amount of hormonal residue that it has is being filtered out, and it remains in the cattle itself. It doesn't come to the milk.
Okay.
So I read one of the research paper which said this. So I researched more on this because I was already into PCOD and PCOD nutrition and everything. So I studied more research papers, and then I got to know that all the hormonal injections that have been given to the cattle, all the hormones are fat soluble.
Okay.
So whatever hormones are present even in the milk, they are present in the milk fats. So when you separate milk fat from milk, it becomes
so that makes skim milk better. That is
a choice for
Okay.
PCOD women than whole milk or full cream milk.
That's interesting.
So that's what I plan in my clients' diet even today. And now, if a PCOD person calls me and says, okay, my doctor has told me not to drink milk, but you are giving me milk in the diet. So can I have milk or not? Then I explained her whole of this thing.
And when it comes from a different source, like for example, we have oats milk, almond milk, different milks. So in this case does not happen.
So almond milk it does not happen because now almonds are like they are not any hormonal injections we are giving almonds, right? But yes, some amount of heavy metals could be there because we researched on milk and we researched on vegetables. One of my batchmate, she researched on vegetables.
Okay.
So she found even in vegetables heavy metals were there.
Right.
So I would say nothing is safe to eat that way. But yes, our bodies are designed and accustomed to deal with these things.
Okay.
And that's why you have to eat a lot of antioxidants in your diet to combat those effects.
Okay.
So even today, I plan my diet keeping in mind, yes. And if somebody calls me up and asks me for a scientific explanation, why are you planning milk in my diet? I am like very confidently explaining them because I researched it, because I got it tested. And now I know why you can have milk in PCOD, and I recovered my PCOD without giving up on milk.
So right now, since we are talking about milk, so out of all the options, which is the healthiest one that one can consume?
So it's not like I told you, it's not something that fits all. So if somebody is allergic to milk, no kind of milk would suit them, right? They could definitely go with almond milk or oat milk. That would be more suitable and more digestible. The dairy produce is definitely not suitable for them if they're lactose intolerant or something. Now, if you're suffering from PCOD, PCOS and you really love milk and you want to have it, then I would suggest go for skim milk. Now, if you are somebody who's planning to get pregnant or you want to conceive, you need certain amount of fats, you need increased amount of calories, you need good fats in the diet. So what milk gives you is good fats called desi ghee.
Okay.
So you need to have, milk with some constituent of fat in it.
Okay. Although we have already transitioned into the expert's take thing, which was our next segment. So I have a few questions for you where, as the name suggests, you will give your expert's take or advice on it.
Yeah.
Right? So the first thing is, like, if someone is living in India and someone else is living abroad, okay, obviously their environment, their lifestyle is entirely different, which you mentioned in our conversation before, that your patient now shifted to Canada, she needed a different plan now.
Yeah.
So first of all, does factors like climate, locally eating habits, all those things does have an impact? And when you are, making the customized plans, what kind of things like you consider while doing it when it comes to like different geography, locations and all that?
Definitely, our plans change from season to season. Like for example, in winters we are eating lot of green leafy vegetables. In summers we are eating lot of gourds, bottle gourd and everything. In winters we are eating a lot of oranges and citrus fruits, and in summers we are shifted to melons. So eating according to the season is very, very important, because if the food is seasonal, it is going to be more nutritious. And similarly, if you're eating local produce, then also because the food has been less traveled, so it will have a better nutrient profile. So whatever you grow in your area or grow in your community, and whatever food is seasonal is definitely going to be more nutritious. Secondly, I'll give you an example. Like I was in London for a few days before coming here, and we were eating a lot of non-veg foods like eggs, and we ate a lot of chicken. My husband ate a lot of meat because I don't eat red meat. So a lot of chicken and a lot of egg for every meal, for breakfast also, for lunch also, for dinner also. So what I realized, everything we were eating there was being digested. One, because we were walking like 20,000 steps every day. Second, the climate, the temperature that they had, everything was suiting us. But if I start eating non-vegetarian in India for all my 3 meals, first, we don't do as much walking here as in India. Second is because it's so much heat. If I'll eat non-veg for all 3 meals, I am probably going to get acne breakouts everywhere, or I'll get an upset stomach or something related to heat. because of course that food, when the food is being digested in your body, it burns calories, and that generates a lot of heat. Now proteins require maximum amount of effort while digesting, especially with the meats. So you're generating more and more heat while digesting, so it keeps your body warm. Like in countries like Kazakhstan, they eat horse meat because the temperatures are so low, they need to keep their bodies warm. But here in India, we cannot eat that kind of meat because we already have heat most of the year. And if we start eating all those things, we are probably going to get, upset stomachs and acne and everything related to heat. So every country has a different food. So I have clients in over 14 plus countries. So we've had clients in France, and we've had clients in Canada and in UK and everywhere. So eating pattern, definitely. So when you go to Canada, it's a lot of avocados that they eat, a lot of guacamole. When you come to UK, it's a lot of breads that they eat and a lot of meat that they eat. We have had vegetarian clients in UK where, what markets do. So I travel a lot. And I travel to the countries where my clients have been, or most of the clients I had. Like I traveled to Germany last year just to get an experience what kind of food is available, and Indian food is really expensive there. So now I have an idea what kind of a food I can plan for a client living in Germany. So that's why traveling is also a part of learning and growing.
Researching,
yeah. And everywhere, the food profile, even at a short distance, changes completely.
Right. But today, like if you see, many Indians are now adopting Western food habits a lot. Is it adversely affecting us?
I would not say, because most of the things are being grown here in India nowadays. Like if I talk about raspberries, which was not available in India till last year, but now it is available. Now they say grown in Uttarakhand. So it's being grown in Uttarakhand, which is not very far from northern India. So if it is being grown in India, now blueberry farming has started in India, strawberry farming has started in India. So if it is being grown and it is mostly available in winters, so now when you store it in the refrigerator and then you're eating it in summers, you might not get as much as nutrients as you would get it eating fresh in winters.
Right.
So now most of the things are being grown, avocados are being grown in India. So I would say instead of going for Tanzanian avocados or instead of going for Turkey apples, choose Kashmir apples or choose avocados that are being grown here in India itself.
Right.
So the local produce is definitely going to be more nutritious.
And when we talk about food, I think adulteration is also one of the problems that we were discussing. What do you have to say about that? We see a lot of reels around paneer being fake or, milk being contaminated or adulterated. So what is your take there?
So adulteration is definitely there and we need to improve our standards. I have been saying this aloud so many times. And not just me, many people are making videos about it. Now, why we don't make any video about any brand is, you will get legal notices, right? So suppose there's a meal replacement shake I talked about, they'll ask me to remove the video, otherwise I'll get there and then I'll get a legal notice, yeah? So we cannot name out brands, that's the first thing. But as a part of our curriculum, even in Lady Oven, even here at Manav Rachna, there has been a subject dedicated to it, which is food safety and security. Dr. Pratibha ma'am taught us this subject, food safety and security, and we have been testing different foods with whatever adulterants they have. So some tests are very simple that can be done at home, like for milk. If you're producing, getting it from a local store, especially then, you need to test it by putting it in a bottle, put some water and shake it vigorously. When you put water in milk, it has become thin, it should not froth much. But after putting water also, it froths a lot. It means that it is adulterated with soap. Now, why they adulterate milk with soap is because the good fat present in milk is being extracted, which is ghee, which is very expensive. Now to add that richness to the milk again, they add vegetable oil, and to emulsify it, they add soap. right? Then we tested for red chili powder, which was adulterated with brick powder, which was obtained from a local kirana store somewhere in Delhi. Then many of the pulses that are shiny looking, that are really polished and they're glossy, most of the time the good looking pulses, they are mostly adulterated with methanol yellow. So whenever you are soaking or washing the dal, if it leaves a lot of yellow color, don't eat that dal, because it is most common adulterant is methanol yellow, which has neurodegenerative effects.
Okay.
So methanol yellow is a very common adulterant for haldi as well. Now we have seen everywhere in the reels, we are seeing synthetic paneer, and so iodine testing, they are just adding tincture iodine and then saying that it's synthetic paneer. It's not synthetic, it means that it is adulterated with starch. So starch is present in rice also, it's present in your carbs also. So you have to make sure that whatever testing you are doing is actually meant to test this. So to get a paneer tested, if it is synthetic or not, you need to send it to a laboratory for proper testing, right? By putting just one iodine drop, you cannot say that this particular paneer is fake or synthetic. It could be simply adulterated with starch because the milk was adulterated with starch. Now, why they add starch to the milk? To make it look more white and to increase the quantity to meet up the demand. So it's mostly adulterated with starch.
And the starch at max will have an adverse effect on?
It will make you gain weight for sure. Yeah, because when you're drinking milk, you're thinking you're having little amount of carbs and you're having more of proteins and more of minerals, more of vitamins. So milk has every mineral, every vitamin except vitamin C. So when you're drinking milk, you are drinking that, okay, skim milk will help me lose weight. But when you are drinking milk and it is adulterated with vegetable oil or it is adulterated with starch, of course you're going to gain more weight,
right?
And it is going to, adversely affect your health.
Right. And when we are talking about these things, are there for lifestyle diseases that you usually cater to, are there any must-have food items that one should keep in their kitchen? And while we are at it, are there any staple foods that are already part of our regular diet, but we should be cutting them off?
So I rather than just talking about what should be in our kitchen, I would just talking about food, I would like to add more things which matter a lot. First thing is plastic chopping boards. Now plastic is entering in your food through the chopping board. When you see the chopping board after chopping vegetables, you'll see the lines. Where is all that microplastic going? Similarly with plastic bottles. The water bottles come with that you purchase from the market, they come with an expiry. The water does not has an expiry date. It's the plastic bottle that has an expiry date. So some amount of microplastic is being entered in your food. So remove plastic as much as possible from your kitchen. That's the first thing that you should do. Then I would say a lot of biscuits. So I just hate biscuits because see, biscuits is an amalgamation of what? Maida, sugar, vegetable oil or margarine. If not sugar, if it says sugar free, it would be maltose, isomaltose, which are just different names of sugar, or glucose, which is double the calories of sugar. So biscuits, I would say just throw it out, because everybody is having 2 biscuits with 1 cup of tea, and they are having 2 to 3 cups of tea in a day in Indian households. So imagine 6 biscuits in your diet on daily basis, which is just maida, sugar and oil, nothing else. Then if you had to throw something, the packaged namkeens and chips and everything like that, it's very high in sodium, leading cause of hypertension. The number of hypertension cases that we have been seeing, and many a times hypertension is deadly because it's not many a times diagnosed on time. So all these namkeens and chips, especially the blood pressure patients, they should throw it out of there.
Are these directly related to, like, we are hearing a lot of heart attack cases these days?
Hypertension eventually can lead to a heart attack, but it can lead to brain hemorrhage. It can lead to your eyes. It can make your optic nerve damage.
Okay.
So it can make your kidneys damage. So yes, hypertension has a lot of comorbidities linked to it. Yeah, just like diabetes. So whenever I talk to a patient, I counsel them by saying, hypertension or diabetes is not a big disease that you cannot manage. You are lucky you diagnosed it on time, and not your kidneys are fine, your eyes are fine, you're able to walk on your 2 feet. Because what you don't realize it, if you don't work on your diabetes, managing your diabetes or managing your hypertension, there would be a sudden case where you will lose your vision or you will lose your kidneys. Then you can't even eat rajma chole. Now we are just asking you to cut down a little bit of rice or cut down a little bit of carbs. Then you will not be allowed to eat rajma or chole when you lose kidney. So that's how I motivate them to, work on their diet. And that's how I motivate my dad to start following a diet.
Okay, and another most popular thing these days is intermittent fasting. So let's compare, first of all, intermittent fasting versus calorie counting. Which one is better? And okay, I'll ask the follow-up question later. But first of all, which one is better between these two?
Okay, so calorie counting is better. Why? Because you're at least, acknowledging what food you are eating and how much of calories are you consuming in a day. Why I'm saying it's better and it's not the best mode, because for me personally, as a dietitian or someone who has been overweight and studied nutrition for so many years, making life about counting calories is a very wrong thing to say. Where I'm sitting is because number of calories that you are eating matters less over where are you obtaining those calories from. So one slice of maida ki bread gives you similar calories of that of a half roti. But I would say that roti is more nutritious. Why? Because it has more fiber, it has B group vitamins, it has a better nutrition profile. So just counting calories is not enough. You have to make sure that you're obtaining those calories from the right sources. Now you are eating like 5 pieces of gems and the chocolate gems that we get, and you're eating 1 apple. It might give you the same calorie, but apple would be more filling. It will provide you vitamin C, it will provide you more vitamins, more fiber. So it's over calorie counting, it is important where are you obtaining those calories from. And intermittent fasting, so it's not suitable for everybody. First of all, diabetics, it's not suitable. PCOD patients, it's not suitable because what they go through is insulin resistance. So when you don't eat for a very long period of time, and when you eat in a small window, you will tend to overeat many times. So because when we are not, so it's like you've been sleeping for like 5 hours, relaxing, chilling, doing nothing. And then after 5 hours, you wake up and I tell you, go run 5 kilometers. Will you be able to do it? No, right? So that similar thing happens with our body. So eating food, digesting food is like an exercise for our internal organs. So suppose you've been lying down or we've not been eating for 5 hours, 18 hours, 12 hours. And after that we wake up and we start feeding ourselves in a larger quantity. There would be 2 things happening. One, you will eat more than required. Second, you will eat very fast. You won't chew your bite properly. And what we learned in our nutrition biochemistry is that your digestion starts from your mouth.
That we have learned in school as well. Yes.
Yeah. So your digestion starts with your mouth. If you are not chewing properly, then you cannot expect your stomach to do everything, right? Then why do you have teeth, right? So let teeth do their job, and then don't overburden your stomach. So you will eat very fast in intermittent fasting is what I believe. I do practice intermittent fasting in my curriculum while handling clients to just change a pattern. Because what happens are our bodies are very smart and they tend to get used to whatever you've been doing. So I will follow a diet. It worked for me for 1 month, 15 days. It might not work for me after 15 days. So in that case, what I have to do is, I have to change the pattern so that your body goes into a surprise. So for a short period, it is good. And if you don't have diabetes or PCOD or anything like that, it's fine.
Okay. So in intermittent fasting, some people like skip breakfast, some skip dinner. Is one better than the other?
Yes.
During that fasting, what do you recommend what one can consume? Like I think green tea is allowed.
Any 0-calorie beverage is allowed.
Okay. Like in addition
Black
to green
coffee,
tea, black coffee.
Green tea, water, lemon water, anything like that.
So breakfast or dinner, which one is better?
So for me, not skipping dinner, having an early dinner is definitely better. So what I recommend my patients if they want to follow intermittent fasting is eat early, start your eating window early and end your eating window early. Because when you end your eating window early, it works like there's something called a circadian rhythm. So when the sun sets, your eyes give signal to your brain that time to sleep is approaching. And when this signal is given to brain, what brain does it slows down the body. It slows down the production of digestive juices and digestive enzymes. That's why they say you need to keep a gap between your dinner and your sleep. So that's why a lot of early dinner helps a lot. Now, most of the celebrities you talk about, Virat Kohli, Anushka Sharma, Akshay Kumar, everybody is talking about having an early dinner. This is what we have been saying from last 5 years, start having your dinner on time. So early dinner, what it does is, it works along with your circadian rhythm. Now, eyes have given signal to the brain, okay, now time to sleep is approaching. You need to control the production of insulin and hormones and digestive juices and enzymes. Because if brain will not do that, in your sleep, you will go into a state called hypoglycemia. Your blood sugar levels will drop. So ultimately, your brain has to slow down the production of insulin, slow down the production of digestive juices and enzymes. So the late dinners can definitely be a cause of diabetes, definitely be a cause of cardiovascular diseases and a lot of digestive issues and a poor gut health. It will also make you need rest at night time. Your internal organs also need rest at night time. And when you're overburdening them and making them work day and night, they will quit quicker.
Yes.
So that way, I feel the early the dinner is, the better it is for your weight loss, for your health, for your fitness. At night time, what your body does is lot of elimination of toxins happen and lot of
major recovery happens in sleep.
Detoxification happens at night. Now, if you are disrupting that natural process, of course, you are going to see the side effects.
And you were talking about the nighttime routines and all. So I have 2 follow-up questions. First of all, I saw it in some podcast where a professional said that people who are now working out at night, that is also disturbing their sleep cycle and that is also affecting their health adversely. So do you think this also is not good for people to practice?
So I would say doing workout is important rather than thinking about what workout you should do, at what time you should do. Because when we, get trapped in the cycle of what to do, when to do, how to do, you are just, falling in the trap of not doing. You are getting an excuse every time of not doing. So this is what I say on my Instagram. This is what I say to my clients. Like, do it any time of the day. Do it whenever you get time. But doing is important, right? Moving your body is important. So we are living in a country where it's not a walking friendly country, right? So we don't have a lot of walking paths available so that we can, neither do we have the temperature so that we can walk and go to our office, walk and go to our institution or things like that. We are not even walking 10,000 steps in a day, right? Now, if you're working out before, after your work has ended, because we don't have any fixed working hours also, we are ending our work at 9 p.m. also, 8 p.m. also. That's the major problem that we are facing, that our work or we reach home by 9 p.m. Then what to do? Eat or have your dinner also and then work out. So where is the time to exercise? You're leaving at 7 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning for your work. You're coming back at 6, 7. Of course, the evening time is left to work out. So working out is important rather than falling into the trap of just thinking what time I should do. Rest, I would say, this works for me. This works for many of my clients is when you are working out, when I talk about workout, I don't mean breaking your body 2 hours in gym. I mean doing something that you can do for the rest of your life, which is more sustainable. So any sustainable workout that you do or you enjoy doing will generate more happy hormones in your body, and it will not stress your body out. Now when you go to the gym for 2 hours and you're breaking yourself in the gym for 2 hours, which is absolutely not required if you are looking for a bodybuilding competition or anything, which is absolutely not required. Now you're doing that, you're putting a lot of stress on your body. Your body is generating what? Cortisol. Now cortisol will disrupt your sleep because you're stressed, physically stressed or mentally stressed. Cortisol will elevate and cortisol will disrupt your sleep. But when you're working out in a way, you are enjoying it. Like for me, workout is dance. So when I have to work out, I dance for 1 hour. And when I dance for 1 hour, after that 1 hour, I sleep like a baby because I am so exhausted. And this has worked for many of my clients. So many of my clients call up, "Oh, Simran, I will follow each and everything you mentioned in the diet plan, but I am sorry, I don't have time to work out." So I'll tell them, see, you need to take out 30 minutes. I am giving you home-based workout. You don't need any equipment. You just need to work out with your body so that you move your body for 30 minutes. And you will get a better sleep, trust me. So they worked out, then they sat, and then I gave some techniques to improve their sleep, like dipping your feet in the hot water after working out, putting a lavender fragrance in your room after or during the workout, take a hot water shower after the workout, or before sleeping, after the workout. Don't look at your screens or don't install white lights in your bedroom after the workout. Keep the lights dim, and that is how you will get a good night's sleep. So you can, if you are working out at night and you believe that your sleep will get disrupted, then we have a solution to improve your sleep, which is also very natural. So all these things will help improve your sleep quality. And after the workout, when you will take a hot water shower, nobody in this world can prevent you from sleeping. If you, given the conditions, you put your phone on side.
Right. Yeah. And previously you mentioned that roti is better than white bread, but many people, even Indians, now have concerns around gluten. They are becoming gluten allergic. So, but roti is something that is something that we have eaten through generations. How is it that now it is creating a problem?
So, being gluten allergic is different to being gluten in, like, nowadays people are giving up on gluten because they want to lose weight. Now that's a different story. And that's every few days there is a fad, and skipping gluten for weight loss is a fad. That I would like to say. But gluten allergic, if you have celiac disease, then of course eating gluten can even hospitalize you. So in that case, you have to avoid it. But if you're doing it just for the purpose of weight loss, so there would be an instance in your life where you will have to eat roti because it's a staple food you've grown up eating. Like for example, if I ask a client to totally give up on roti, and that client wanted me to plan like a gluten-free diet, and then somebody in their family passed away, and all they did for 15 days was eat roti, because at that instance you are not even allowed to cook at home. So what will you do then? Then ultimately, if you're not eating a particular thing for a very long period of time, your body will reduce the production of that enzyme or reduce the production of that particular digestive this thing that has to digest that. Like if you stop milk for a while, your body will reduce the production of lactase enzyme.
Right.
Similarly, if you give up on gluten just to lose weight for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years,
your body will adapt accordingly.
And then ultimately you will become gluten allergic. So don't make this habit, and make sure that you're eating your plate in a balanced form. Now, eating roti does not make you gain weight, but eating 2-3 rotis for every meal with just aloo ki sabzi, no source of protein, no source of fiber, is something that will cause more, problem, more weight gain. And then we blame roti and aloo. What's the mistake? it's our mistake that we are not balancing our plate. We are not adding much veggies to it. We are not adding any protein to it. So instead of talking about just giving up on something to lose weight is a fad, rather talking about balancing to lose weight is not a fad, and that's something that you can adopt rest of your life in every situation.
Right. That is why they say moderation is the key.
Moderation.
Reducing instead of eliminating.
Yeah.
Right. Today we learned a lot of new things, and I'm glad we had this conversation. Moving on to our next segment, which is called the rapid fire round. You know the drill. So I'll ask you the questions and you have to answer us in one word, and that will be quick.
Okay, done. I'll try to be quick.
Okay. Most overrated superfood.
I'm not that quick. Most overrated superfood is that dalchini ka pani or any adrak ka pani in the morning.
Okay.
It can lead to peptic ulcers if you consume it for a very long period of time on an empty stomach. It's really harmful.
Okay. And 3 things everyone should consume daily.
Okay. 3 things: every fruits, lots of vegetables, and some source of protein in each meal.
Okay. And the most underrated Indian food for weight loss.
Dal chawal.
Okay. One diet trend that is fake.
Keto.
Okay. Detox drinks. Does it work or no?
More like infused water. It is adding benefit to your water. Plus, it helps you keep hydrated for longer. Plus, it makes you drink water. Otherwise, you won't drink water. If I tell my clients that, okay, put half a lemon's juice in 1 liter of water and drink that 1 liter of water, it will make you lose weight. They will drink 5 liters of that water, which is, but jokes apart, it makes you drink more water. So it makes you more hydrated, and it helps in the weight loss.
Definitely. Supplements. Essential or avoidable?
Essential. In today's time, it's essential.
Any specific supplement that one should include in their
now vitamin D, many of the Indians are deficit in vitamin D. We have to include magnesium most of the times because muscle cramps and everything, almost everybody is suffering from it or constipated many a times. Then very important mineral is calcium, because most of us are deficit in vitamin D. That's why we are also seeing low bone mineral densities and bone disorders and bone diseases, because calcium requires vitamin D for better absorption.
So a combination of vitamin D, calcium and magnesium?
Yeah, you can take that or you can take separately.
Right, okay. Rice or roti, which one wins for you?
Okay, rice, because it's more easily digestible. It is a prebiotic which feeds the good gut bacteria. So rice over roti.
Okay. And one thing people should stop doing for quick weight loss?
Just cutting down food from their diet. Cutting down aloo from their diet. Cutting down roti from their diet. Instead, balance your diet. Add vegetables to your plate. Add proteins to your plate rather than cutting or completely eliminating. Not, of course, you'll have to cut down, but eliminating it from
your go-to breakfast.
My go-to breakfast is, nowadays it's avocado with 1 slice of whole wheat, 100% whole wheat bread. Otherwise, it's mostly either any Indian cereal, poha, vermicelli, dalia, vegetable oats, anything like that.
These are easy to digest.
Easy to digest, easy to make. Lots of vegetables can go in and very less calories. Plus, I balance it by adding some boiled sprouts or boiled black chana. So it has everything: carbs, protein, fiber, fats, everything.
That is great. And one nutrition habit that everybody should develop today?
Nutrition habit, more like a lifestyle habit, I would say. Avoid plastic as much as you can, because it mimics your hormones. It is the cause of most of the non-communicable diseases. I believe it's a cause of cancer, because we have increased the usage of plastic. Earlier, we used to have steel containers, glass. Now we have store everything in plastic, and that's why, so many cases of cancer also we are seeing, because microplastic enters your food anyhow.
I think many research is also out there. Yes. This was the best. I think I had a lot of fun in this conversation. But before we wrap up, do you have any message for the aspiring professionals in the field?
Definitely study a lot of books. अगर आपको कोई project मिलता है college में, या अगर आपको कोई they ask you for a presentation, so don't just Google it. just go in depth. मतलब अगर मेरे को करना होता है तो मैं क्या करती हूँ, I will take a book specific to liver, उसकी एनाटॉमी पढ़ो, उसकी फिजियोलॉजी पढ़ो और उसको रियल लाइफ के साथ कंपेयर करके अपनी प्रेजेंटेशंस बनाओ. That is the best way to learn, that's the best way you can learn, and that's the best way you can explain it to your clients, because you will be confident कि मैंने ये पढ़ा है और मैंने ये present किया है. तो it would boost up your confidence, and never say no to any opportunity that's coming your way, चाहे वो कितनी ही छोटी हो. अगर 5 दिन की भी कोई internship, कोई project आता है, don't say no. Maybe you are not earning at that point in time, but that will definitely give you a lesson. I would say why I am here is because you can ask the teachers. I never said no for anything, for any project. Don't say no. That's the way you can always grow.
Okay, so this brings us to the end of our today's insightful conversation. Simran, thank you for sharing your incredible expertise with us. I mean it when I say it, because I have learned a lot today.
Thank you. It really means a lot, and I am so happy to be back here. It feels like home, coming back home, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to coming here and talk about it, what I learned, and how I'm using it in my daily life. It's magical.
It's totally our pleasure, by the way. And to our listeners, thank you for staying with us till the very end. I hope you found this conversation helpful. But if you have more questions for us related to nutrition or other fields in the allied health sciences like physiotherapy or food tech, do drop them in the comments. We'll be more than happy to answer them. So, see you in the next episode of the Manav Rachna podcast. Till then, always eat right with the right guidance. Thank you.